What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on? Got a special weekend episode brought to you by my friends at Walmart. We got a really good slate of games, some interesting stuff going on. We got Mike Vrabel taking on the Titans. That's pretty fantastic, especially given that Tennessee heading to Nashville. And the Eagles versus Carson Wentz and the Minnesota Vikings, that's hard to beat. So we're going to dive into the big slate of games. And my friends at Walmart make it really easy because I got a friend in town this week. He just got a job at a big bank. It's actually based out of here in Arizona. He lives in Southern California, and I'm fired up for him. It's an awesome gig. And I was like, you know what? Stay a couple extra days. Don't leave at the end of the week. You've been at this convention hanging out. Like, make it a full week, and come over and we'll watch some ball. We'll watch some of these games on Sunday. But I realized my wife's out of town, and I don't have any food here, and I'm busy. I don't really want to go to the store, so I'm like, why don't I just do this? I got some buddies coming over. I want to barbecue some burgers, and I want to have snacks delivered to my house. But in order to save some time, I'm going to go to the Walmart app because they have express delivery, which means Walmart can get to all this stuff to you in as fast as 1 hour. From snacks to sippy cups, it's a legit lifesaver. So what I did is I ordered some burgers. I ordered some buns. I got ketchup and mustard here. I also am not a big fan, especially when she's gone, of using our normal plates. So I bought some paper plates as well. And got a couple Gatorades as well. Need to hydrate. I got to stay sober because we've got a busy week or a busy day on Sundays. So no boozing, but you could easily order booze if you wanted to. So I'm placing my order right now. I've already got it in the hopper, and I'm checking out. And here's the thing. When it's delivered, we're going to see it delivered before the end of the show. And if you want to try it yourself, just head to Walmart, download the app, and get free delivery on your first order with the promo code EXPRESS. The promotion is valid for the first express delivery with $50 minimum, subject to availability, and restrictions apply. So let's dive in. We've talked about it all week. The Titans are a complete embarrassment. They fail as an organization, not like an individual. I'm not defending Brian Callahan. He clearly was pretty bad at his job. You could argue that he didn't even know the rules. He literally said that week one. I didn't know that an elbow down meant 2 feet in, meant a catch. And he didn't challenge it. Was over his head. And it happens a lot. You're seeing it with Aaron Glenn. You see it with a lot of guys that are coordinators and become head coaches. And here's the difference where I will defend Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn ran the defense. So he was tasked to not just like be a coordinator, like to actually call the plays. Brian Callahan didn't call the plays in Tennessee. Like, he became famous because he was the offensive coordinator for Joe Burrow. He was not the play caller. The head coach was. Like Mike McDaniel. He became famous as this offensive guru, but he didn't call the plays. This guy named Kyle Shanahan did. Some of McVay's guys. Now, granted, they've had success. When Kevin O'Connell worked for Sean McVay, he wasn't calling the plays. Sean was. So it can be really difficult to go, is this guy going to be good or not? We got no clue. You see it in college football, right? It's like, let's take this guy from a little school and make him the head coach at Florida. Well, being the head coach at Louisiana Lafayette is absolutely nothing like being the head coach at Florida. Beside the field is 100 yards and 59 yards wide, right? And the goalposts are the same size. But in terms of running the program on a daily basis, they have nothing in common. And that's why the Mike Vrabel thing is so fascinating. I look back and I go, this guy had taken the Titans, who under this ownership is a laughingstock. Now, granted, they lost in their home opener when they were the 1 seed, but he literally made them the number 1 seed. And they ended up losing to Joe Burrow, who would go on the next week to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And the previous year, when they were a little bit of an underdog, was going on the road to New England, was going on the road to Baltimore, made the Titans the 1 seed, and won road playoff games with Ryan Tannehill. Like, Mike Vrabel isn't just a good coach. Like, he's really good. And to think that the Patriots, now I'm sure they're paying him pretty good money, but they should have had to be in a bidding war. Like, think about the Jets. You interviewed him, and I think clearly part of Vrabel interviewing there was to spark some interest with the Patriots, or at least to kind of get the wheels in motions. Uh, just speed up the process a little bit. But if I was the Jets, I'd be listen. You can use me a little bit. Like I'm cool with that. I understand, but I'm also going to use you because I want you to be my head coach. So how about 5 years, $100 million? How about we offer you amount of money? Like, okay, people say the crafts are cheap. Let's see if they're willing to pay you what we're willing to pay you. Because we will pay you, if they were cool with paying you $15 million a year, we'll pay you 5 more per season. And we'll give you full autonomy on anything you want to do. We're not going to force you to work with anybody like they're forcing you, even though I think Josh McDaniels doing a really good job. Like, that wasn't Vrabel's hire. Elliott Wolf, probably getting along, but like he was kind of forced to work with. We'll let you bring in whoever you want. Now, you could argue if that's the right move to operate as an organization to give all the power to a coach, but like the power of Mike Vrabel, because again, if you're the Jets, like, is Mike Vrabel ever going to win a Super Bowl? I don't know. I have no clue. But there is a value in just having a team that can make the playoffs. Because right now, the Jets have the longest standing current, time period of a team that has not made the playoffs in all of North American team sports. That's pretty crazy. I mean, that's teams like the Sacramento Kings have been checked off the list. The Giants a couple years ago, who have mainly been an abomination for like well over a decade, made the playoffs, won a game. They beat the Minnesota Vikings a couple years ago when they were 9-8. And you see this week, like, I can't imagine that throughout the week, and he's downplayed it. He's not going to feed into this. He's got a little Belichick to him. But you have to imagine that he has been pacing because this is a moment, and I don't know if his team's quite good enough to beat the brakes off a team, but if he was ever going to do it, this is the type of week where he tries to just embarrass your entire organization. And there are going to be a lot of fans with the Titans who, because when you just lose over and over and over again, it's human nature for like apathy to kind of set in eventually. It's like, I just don't even care. And that's what it feels like a little bit with Tennessee. It's like, we don't even care. This is college football country to begin with. We've had some moments with this franchise, but there's no way I'm watching a team that had the number one overall pick last year that now looks like they're destined to compete for the number one pick again and just constantly suck. There is nothing worse because in baseball, it's like, whatever, these games don't matter. In football, like, you get once a week, the games you get build up for in terms of the hype, the different press conferences. There's like a lead up to the game every week. So you're like, it kind of sucks you back in. And this week, it's like, I'm almost rooting for Mike Vrabel. If I'm a Titans fan, I want Mike Vrabel to make it even worse, to make it even uglier, because that's how we feel. And it really sucks we talk a lot about Sam Darnold. We talk a lot about Baker Mayfield. We talk a lot about Daniel Jones. These quarterbacks get put in these situations that are just chaotic, that are just, dysfunctional feels like an understatement. There's no way to overcome it. And most human beings, I don't care who you are, don't have the mental fortitude, the just ability to stay confident, keep your head up, and handle the adversity that comes with like every single person in the building of this franchise that is worth billions of dollars is staring at you. Save us. It's like, guys, I might be able to save us in a couple years, but I'm like 23 years old, and I've played 6 games in my career. And clearly, I look around, no one knows what's going on. Maybe one day I will know what's going on, like a Sam Darnold, like a Baker Mayfield, but right now I don't. So right now I can't really help anybody out. And I'm screaming for help with my coaches. They're firing people, and it's just a joke. And this is why, looking back on them firing Mike Vrabel because he was like mean, I think there are some industries where it's like you're allowed to be an a-hole, and football's just one of those. Finance is one of those. You ever been to a construction site? It's not for the faint of heart. And there are other industries where you probably, like, if you're going to be a high school teacher, you're probably not screaming at other teachers in the lunchroom, right? But if you go into a football office, high school football, let alone college or the NFL, like, it's aggressive. There's a lot of ego. There's a lot of alpha. And sometimes, like, guys, like, I don't think Mike Vrabel's a bad guy by any means, but you're not sleeping much during the season. You're not always going to have a smile on your face. And if you're an owner, you should always have a smile on your face because you're just cashing enormous checks. Amy and the ownership brass for the Titans are going to make money whether they don't win another game for the next 5 years. They are going to print cash just because the league gives them money. right? Obviously, there is pressure going into this new building and season tickets and stuff. But even if they don't win many games, it doesn't matter. They are guaranteed to make money. And also, when they go into these hiring cycles, so you fire Brian Callahan, they fired a million guys before, including Mike Vrabel. Unless you're willing to pay top dollar, how could any candidate worth his salt feel comfortable that this is going to work? That it's worth me risking my career? Because a lot of these guys, one, if you're quote unquote retread, and Mike Vrabel technically was, you're not getting like 3 or 4 spots, right? Unless you're Pete Carroll. This might be, it's going to be your second go around. You better feel pretty comfortable, like a Mike McCarthy. And if it is your first opportunity, these coordinators make so much money now that you can be, I would say, a little more cautious when making the decision. Oh, I just got to become a head coach, right? Liam Cohen kind of did that last year. It's like, bro, you went from nobody to somebody quick. They're offering you head coach. He's like, yeah, unless you get rid of Trent Baalke, I'll just stay with Baker Mayfield. And they're like, we really want you. We'll fire Trent Baalke, and we want you. And look at Liam Cohen. Looks like he's going to be a pretty good coach. But if you're the Titans, like, what do you have to offer a coach to get him to take the gig? You just fired Mike freaking Vrabel, who I would say, just if you just went around the league, is like universally respected. You would not find a coach or another GM that would go, that guy's just good. Again, it's like, well, can he win a Super Bowl? Like, I don't know. Like Ryan Day was like, could he ever win the national championship? Then he did. Like, he was winning a lot of games. And I'm not even the biggest Ryan Day fan, but I would say, listen, he's pretty good. Like, is Sark ever going to win a national championship? Well, he could. He's at Texas, right? He hasn't, but he's pretty good relative to the rest of the country. And say the same thing for Lincoln Riley. You could say the same thing for Dan Lanning, right? Dan Lanning had a great season last year and got blasted in his first playoff game. So I think part of this is having the understanding of when you get someone good in your building, they're going to piss you off every once in a while. There's never been a grouchier human being than Bill Belichick on a daily basis. And that's when the Patriots were printing money and making Super Bowl runs and winning trophies. And he still wasn't nice to anybody. And everyone is like, yeah, we're winning. It's worth it. That comes with the cost. Okay, just peeked at my app, the Walmart app. It is about 20 minutes away. So we'll get back to talking some football, and the food officially headed to our house. So I'm really excited for this game. And listen, I think Drake Maye has turned into one of the more fun young players, really just in the league. I mean, if he's going to be this good, the Patriots, they took a little hiatus from Brady, but it feels like now you put Vrabel, you put, kind of that Mac Jones and Cam Newton era behind you, and you got Drake Maye. The future feels very, very bright. The other game that's really, really fascinating is one thing I really appreciate about Philadelphia is the intensity that goes in that organization. That it's just win at all costs, and they'll do whatever it takes. People get fired, players get cut, and this is after going to the playoffs, right? Remember that year where they kind of fell apart at the end, and they just started firing everybody. They had literally the year before been in the Super Bowl. Their standard is just crazy high. They have no let up, and this was one of Saban's great qualities. This is one of Belichick's great qualities, and this is like the Eagles ethos with Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman. They just don't have much patience, and they know what they're doing. That's the difference of them and like the Raiders, the Titans, the Jets, who you could say don't have much patience, but they have no clue what they're doing. They have no clue who they're hiring. They just constantly do it wrong. The Eagles know what they're doing, but like any industry in life, you're not always going to hire the right people. Sometimes you hire the wrong guy and it backfires, and it leads you to evaluating and going at the end of the season, we might need to make a change, because you could argue the Eagles, who I think are in a little trouble this weekend at Minnesota, on the road, their defensive backfield is a major question mark. You're going up against Justin Jefferson, who isn't just one of the best, if not the best wide receiver in the league. He's one of the best players in the league. Jordan Addison's a stud. Naylor's a really good player. Hawkinson, they got multiple running backs. It's just they are really, really going to put the Eagles defense on tilt. And the Eagles pass rush hasn't nearly been as good as it has been in years past. It's not as dominant. They're not as good. And they've just lost players. That's part of paying a lot of money to a lot of veteran guys. You can't sign Milton Williams. You can't sign Sweat. Not even saying that they would have wanted to, and definitely Not at those prices, but you got no chance. They're good as gone. And Brandon Graham's like, I retire. A couple years ago, Fletcher Cox, I retire. They've lost a lot of people. CJ Gardner Johnson, who can be a polarizing individual, was just their Ronnie Lott, in a league where you're not really allowed to hit anymore over the middle. I would not want to go over the middle on that guy. And their random defensive backs, like last year, they had one of the best rookie corners we've seen in recent memory to go along with Darius Slay. Now you have random guys like a Dory Jackson and Ringo, the kid from Georgia, who just aren't very good, or at least not playing well. And when you can't cover people and your pass rush isn't quite the same, that can be a problem, even when you have one of the best defensive coordinators of his generation. There's only so much you can do. Now, you could argue that Fangio, he's going to have to adapt a little bit. If your front four is not getting home, you're going to have to blitz more. You don't need to be Flores or some of these coaches that are very aggressive as blitzers, but you can't treat your unit like it was last year. Or like in San Francisco when you had Justin Smith and Alden Smith and Ray McDonald and Ahmad Brooks, and you didn't need to blitz Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman. But when your front's not getting home, you got to utilize your linebackers, who are great athletes, in Campbell from Alabama and Zach Bond, who's been a revelation as an Eagles player. You're going to have to use those guys to manipulate some pressure. And the one thing I would imagine that Kevin O'Connell is going to try to do is we're going to attack over and over. And Kevin O'Connell, like Sean McVay, and they're the younger version of the Andy Reid, they want to pass the ball all the time. Some of these old school offensive guys, I think Sean Payton falls under this a little bit. Like, he has no problem running the ball a lot. John Gruden, I thought, was going to be this progressive guy when he came back to the Raiders. It was like fullback, he wanted to run the ball. Some of these people just these coaches, they just lean run over the pass when all else fails, especially in a closer game. Kevin O'Connell's a pass guy. He wants to throw it over and over and over again. And against the Eagles, I wouldn't blame him. So to me, there's going to be a microscope on this game. It's part of, the Eagles have really turned in like some of these other sports, like the way we talk about the Yankees or the Red Sox or like the Lakers or the Warriors. They're just a polarizing team. They win or lose. Everyone has an opinion on what's going on. Their quarterback is pretty bizarre because he's had some of the greatest Super Bowl performances we've ever seen. He literally just outdueled Patrick Mahomes. He was fantastic. But then he plays regular season games against like the Giants. You're like, is this guy even good? And he's probably a hard guy to coach. And clearly the identity of their offense feels a little lost to go along with their offensive coordinator, who just doesn't feel that comfortable calling the plays. Now, Sirianni earlier this week stuck by him, but this is just an awesome storyline game. Like, if Minnesota beats them, they've done an awesome job with quarterback situation kind of in flux and a bunch of injuries on their offensive line. And if Philly were to lose, I mean, it would be like DEFCON 5 in Philadelphia. It would not shock me at all if the Eagles were to fire somebody, if they were to make some personnel changes. I think we would start asking big picture questions like, when you ride a running back like they did last year or like the 49ers did the year before, is there an attrition that comes with their legs now that is unlike we've ever seen? And they're just they're never quite the same, because Saquon was so good last year. He looked like a rocket ship busting those 50, 60, 70-yard runs. And this year you're watching, it just doesn't quite feel the same. And then obviously defense, like there's just a level. Howie's probably the best GM in the league. But when you're paying a lot of guys a lot of money, there is just not that much you can do, right? You're going to have to pinch pennies at certain positions. You're going to need to hit on some low price free agents. You're going to need to hit on some random draft picks, right? Not every guy gets to be a first rounder in your starting lineup. You're going to need a fifth rounder, a third rounder, a guy that you found on a practice squad to be starters at different positions. And they're kind of going through it right now with some of that, and they're just not as good. And the drop off between their starters and because of the injury bug to the next guy is pretty dramatic. Like, they couldn't re-sign Mekhi Becton. Mekhi Becton last year, to go with Juergens, to go with Dickerson, to go with the two tackles, was just a road grader. I mean, he was incredible. I mean, he was a physical force. Well, what happens? Like, well, we can't re-sign him. He goes to the Chargers. And which is normal NFL business. Like, that's just part of the practice of the modern day salary cap. right? You're like, well, we got to pick this guy over this guy. We're going to resign this guy. We can't resign this guy. It's just part of the deal. And all of a sudden, you get Minnesota who let Sam Darnold go, which Sam Darnold is objectively one of the best players in the league. Like he is, like you can't even argue it. Eye test statistically, just his win loss record over the last 2 years, he has been fantastic. Now he's going to get judged based on last year, the two big games at the end. Seattle's in the playoffs or playing for the division at the end of the year. He's going to be under a microscope too. But right now, he looks awesome. And we're like, well, you got a bunch of cap space. Is your quarterback situation good enough? Because you have this awesome team. I know you got some injuries, but these conversations are just not going to die. And one other game that is going to be fascinating to me is the Sunday night game. I just don't know how you replace Fred Warner. Let's see this Walmart. My order is actually on the way right now. They've picked it up and they're coming to delivery. Watching the Monday night game with the Atlanta Falcons, the two best players on the field, on a field that had Josh Allen on it, were Bijan Robinson, who was by far the most dynamic guy on either team, and Drake London, who has really turned into a high end wide receiver. Those two guys are dominant forces. And the only way you can kind of neutralize a guy like Bijan Robinson is to have a star linebacker who essentially treats him like when you have a spy on a quarterback like Michael Vick or Lamar Jackson. That's what you do to a running back. And you lose Fred Warner to a shattered ankle, which is just devastating. It sucks. There is no replacing that. Have always thought it was kind of cheesy. I understand why you got to say it, but like next man up, like this isn't high school football. This is the pros. Fred Warner makes $25 million a year. The next man up is a rookie making $1 million a year who might not be a starter on 10 teams in the NFL. So next man up, like he literally has to be the next man up because we need a guy to play middle linebacker. But we can't act like this is the same. This is the guy that breaks down our team pregame, postgame, throughout the year, who is the sheriff in the locker room, who is like the heartbeat of the coaching staff on the field. You're just kind of screwed. And then you get this team who, if I was Zach Robinson, who is the offensive coordinator for the Falcons, who's the former quarterback for the Oklahoma State Cowboys, who a lot of people think has a decent chance to be their next coach. If you start doing well in the NFL, you don't need to go to Oklahoma State, which is not a good job, but you could just become a head coach in the NFL. And the way you do that is to make Michael Penix look good, is to make Bijan Robinson and Drake London continue to look awesome. Then all of a sudden, look around the NFL, like who are the next shooting star coaches? And I think a lot of people, including myself, early on the season, like, and based on last year with Cousins, Zach Robinson just kind of struggled as an offensive coordinator. Well, sometimes, and I'm no different, you're no different, we're all fall under this, is we just need some reps. And the more reps in anything we do, when we take different steps in life and we work up the ladder in whatever we're doing, like some things take more time than others. There are certain tasks and certain jobs that we pick up really quickly and other things that take us some time. What's unique about the sport of football is when you go from a position coach to a coordinator, everyone's watching you, especially on a team where the head coach is a CEO head coach / he's a defensive guy by nature. Like that's kind of becomes your baby. We all know it. He knows it. The players know it. So when it struggles, like we all look at you. And listen, this is why you make a lot of money. And there's a lot of pressure in these jobs. These coaches know it. Like it's a very unique profession that way because it's so public and so many people are passionate about it. And he did a really good job the other night. Now, the Bills are not good on defense. I think we all agree. But I don't know how good the 49ers are going to be on defense. Nick Bosa is gone. Fred Warner is gone. They are very dependent on two rookie defensive linemen. So I think if you are the Atlanta Falcons, you attack early and often with Bijan Robinson. He's a special player. I mean, I've had buddies that were going through Texas when he was a young player, and they would go, John, it is stupid how talented this guy is. There is nothing he can't do. Oh yeah, he's a great character guy too. He's kind of the total package. I mean, the NFL's been pretty lucky at running back. I mean, over the years, they've had some guys that have been a little bit of a wild card. Now, look at the last like 3 superstar running backs they've had. McCaffrey, Saquon, and Bijan. whereas my wife calls them Dijon mustard. They are just, they're everything you want when you draft a player, right? When you draft a player high, and listen, running backs are pretty polarizing when you take them high. And I guess typically I would be against doing that. I would lean an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman. But sometimes in a draft, it's supply demand. So if there are no offensive or defensive linemen worth taking, now when you take Saquon number 2, or I'm pretty sure they could have taken, I forget the defensive lineman off the top of my head, but there were guys they could have taken over Bijan. But if you're going to be this, no one's going to argue with you. It's like you can take Ashton Genty number 6 overall. He just better be a Pro Bowler. Like you watch Bijan Robinson, you're like, that's Pro Bowl, all pro level. You watch McCaffrey 2 years ago, Saquon last year, like that's Hall of Fame talent. So you give me Hall of Fame talent. We can argue with the value in the draft. No one ever argues when the player's scoring multiple touchdowns a game, going for 200 all-purpose yards week in, week out. And I would expect Bijan to go nuts. And I think the 49ers are in major trouble. You can only, when I was in high school, I used to work on the ranch. My dad was a farmer, and basically sophomore, junior, senior year, it's when I realized like I'm not. My brother still does it. Uh, Again, his job isn't quite what we were doing back then, but it's really hard work. And I lived in an area, it was really hot. It just it's a humbling profession. It's tough. And the guy my dad worked for had this barge, and the barge was actually from, I think, World War One. He had bought the barge, and this is in the Sacramento area. This is probably 20 plus years ago. And he had bought the barge. It had, I forget where he got it, but what happened was in World War One, these guys that were on the barge, a bunch of soldiers, had a bad batch of moonshine, and they all died, all of them. So this barge was, so it might have been in like the Bay Area, and he had bought it because no one was using it. And I don't even know technically what he used it for, but he had it in this area, like kind of between where I grew up in Davis and Sacramento. And it started to sink one day. I can't remember if there were holes in it, if like the motor had gone out, but it was taking on water and it was going to sink and it was going to be a major problem. So we started getting these little pumps, right? Not like a big water pump, like little gasoline pumps. And we had like 3 or 4 of them on the barge. And the guy I was working for was the owner's son, John. And he was so mad. He's like, this is the dumbest idea of all time. And him and his dad were screaming at each other. He ended up like, fire broke out. It was a disaster, but it was a stupid idea because you could not save this barge with these little 2-pound pumps. It was not going to work. And that's what it kind of, they ended up saving it by getting huge pump brought in and erected the barge and kind of saved it and kind of patched it up. But there is no filling in a Band-Aid for Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. It's literally impossible. You maybe can do it with Nick Bosa over the course, manipulate some passer. There is no doing it with Fred Warner. And that's what it feels like right now with the 49ers. They're at the point where they've tried to Band-Aid this. It's like they'll leak here. Now the barge has broken. Water's flowing through. And I'm kind of nervous for the rest of the season because it's been very admirable. They've played their ass off. They're 4-2. They've done a good job coaching. But you just can't miss this many players. You can't have this many injuries. You can't have this many issues and overcome it. And it's one of those things like last year, it's like they just lost some close games. This year, it feels like, I don't want to say built-in excuse, but at least you can understand it. You know, in the moment Fred Warner's ankle was pointing the other way, like, who do you think is going to be tackling Bijan Robinson when you play him in a game? And a huge part of the 49ers' potential success was, well, they play a crappy schedule, which is true. They don't play a good schedule. Their schedule is really easy. And if they were fully healthy, they'd probably win like 12 games. But they're not. And I do think when the dust settles, it's going to be a struggle to win 9. So this is an excellent opportunity. If you're Raheem Morris, if you're Penix, if you're Robinson, if you're London, like they should be licking their lips to play some of these random dudes on the 49ers defense. Just got the alert. My order has been dropped off. Let's go check it out. Okay, it finally arrived. My Walmart order doesn't get any easier. I was sitting here podcasting, talking about football, press a couple buttons, and boom, some burger buns, some burgers. So we ain't going to go hungry tonight, that's for sure. But here's the thing. Walmart is not just food delivery. It's got you covered for all sorts of things. I'm like, I needed some charcuterie. I needed some bowls. Boom. Look at this. Got some M&Ms, some chips, some different stuff I can put in here. And I got a charcuterie. My wife loves charcuterie boards. So I was like, you know what? How about this bad boy? How sweet's this thing? All from Walmart. Also got all sorts of stuff. Cornhole. Walmart's got you covered. It's way more than food, and it has you covered on your game day needs. Use it. It's efficient. Doesn't take too long. All of a sudden, it's at your front door, and you're off and running for your weekend, getting ready to watch some football. How do you beat that? I'm trying to tell you, you're getting ready for the best time of the week to watch football games, and you realize you need some stuff. Whether it's burgers and buns like I ordered, whether it's Gatorades, whether it's anything from the Walmart app. I cannot preach enough the convenience. I didn't even need to leave my seat in my office, recording a podcast, press a couple buttons. Walmart has me taken care of. So that's going to do it for today's episode. Shout out to Walmart for the clutch assist. Everything I needed. Showed up fast, and I didn't even need to stress about it. If you're like me and always realize you forgot something right before the game, just head to the Walmart app for express delivery, and you can get free delivery on your first order. I know I just did with promo code EXPRESS. That's EXPRESS. Just enter it at checkout. The promotion is valid. Express delivery order, $50 minimum, subject to availability. Restrictions apply. See you guys later.